Welcome to the second video in Andy Resources how to build a HTML5 game using Impact and WebSockets. In the last video we kind of course created a level and kind of loaded up our environment and got it all ready. In this video I want to go ahead and get a player in and moving around and all that good stuff so it starts to look more like a game. I've included the source. There should be a link on here that goes to Indie Resource, and you can upload the source, or you can try to type it as we go. But I'm not going to type anything as we go. I'm going to type a couple things, but not the whole thing, because I'd rather spend the time explaining it than sitting here having you watch me type. And it's no fun to have to pause and type and everything. So if you when you get the source, you're going to go to lib and then game, and then under entities is where you're going to want to put this player.js. And when you open the player.js, before, I'm not going to explain everything about it just yet, just because I don't want to get too involved with it. I just want to explain the important parts, and then as we go we're going to add more. The one thing to remember about all of our basically classes are you're always going to have this game.entities.player, and whatever the name of the actual file is, that's what we're going to name this right here. So if this was enemy, then this would be enemy. Then we'd come down and we'd actually put entity enemy, and regardless of lowercase or uppercase of the file, this is always going to be uppercase, the first letter in here. And you trust me, we'll do enough of this that this will sink in, bleed in easily. Now, if we actually go to our player file and we go back and we go to our media and we open up our player file, and I'm going to open up mine in Photoshop, you'll see that. And just to give you a little hint on things, and most of you probably already know this, a good idea when you're wanting to do pixel type graphics is go to and if you're using Photoshop, whatever you're using in Photoshop, you can just go to Edit Preferences and you can do your guides. And because I'm doing mine basically 32 by 64, I can make my grid line every 32, and you may have to change that color. I do red just to make it easier. I'm actually going to do 64 and then do two subdivisions, that way I see the 32 as well. So if I hit OK, and you may have to come up here to view and then show and then hit grid and then check the extras, and that'll give you your basic actually let's look to see what size I'm using. I'm actually using 32 by 48. Okay, regardless, this will give you a general idea of, and when you're doing you can do 32 and then change that grid to 48, and that way you know exactly where to place them. If you notice, I just did a simple animation for each direction that we're going, and because it's 32 by 48, when we do our size, it's going to build our animations off that size of 32 by 48. So because of let's go to our canvas size, image canvas size. Let's change this to pixels, and you'll see this is 96 by 192. Well, 96 divided by 32 is 3, so it knows, because it's 96, there's going to be 3 animations in here. So if we wanted 4, we would just increase out the canvas by another 32, pop it in here, and it'll know. Now, something that helps it know is this animation sheet where we actually claim the animation sheet, and this is where we're actually saying this is the animation sheet, this is where it's found in media player.png, and it's 32 by 48. Then when we go to add the animation, we're telling it what animations we want. Now remember, this is an array, and arrays always start with 0, so it's going to be 0, and it's going to just go left to right, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's not actually 12 here, it's 11, because you got to start with 0. So if you notice, my up animations is 9, 10, and 11. And if we go back to, so it's actually going to be our up animations 9, 10, and 11, and that's how I'm claiming them, so it knows what animations are what. Now for my idle animations, I just went through and picked the best one, and I just put one of them in there. Our speed, I just found that was the best speed, and that's what this is right here. So if you wanted to speed it up, you could change this to a 1, but then it's really quick. It depends on how fast you want to make your character, which I've made a variable up here, speed, but I don't want to get anybody lost yet. I just want to kind of explain that. So let's start back up here. So we have our size of each one. We're not claiming the size. The reason why I explain this, we're not claiming the size of this whole image. We only want what the single image is going to be, so that's why I'm saying 32 by 48. The type is type A. If you get confused on these, you can actually go to the documentation and just go to docs on impact.js.com and go to the entity, and then you can come down here to the type, and it kind of gives a real good explanation of our check against as far as our types and our collides, and go through and read those. We're going to go through them here, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them, but you will learn what you need to learn off these tutorials. So if you just don't feel like reading or don't want to go any further, that's fine. But basically, you have entity type A, entity type none, entity type B, and entity type both. And the both is more against the check against. So the type is going to be A, and that's what I'm just using as friendly. Type B is enemy, and I really don't use these types as much as I probably should, because I like to do a lot of check against, and then I actually create a new property in here with a name, and I have it check against the name, which we're going to do, but we're going to use both methods. So anyway, this is the type A. It's a friendly. Now, where this comes in handy is if he's shooting a bullet, you don't want it colliding, you can make the bullet a type A also, and then it won't check against it. And once again, we'll go over that later. So check against type none. He's currently, we don't have him doing anything, so he's just not going to run any checks right now. And he collides. That's another thing that you might want to take a brief look at with the collisions under docs, because it'll give a pretty good explanation. It was a little confusing for me at first, so I just kind of started playing with it until I figured it out. But there is a good explanation of what you have. The collision modes are light, passive, active, and fixed. With passive, when two entities are passive, they'll just pass through each other, because when you get to the point where two players, or a player and an enemy, especially with AI, are colliding against each other, it does cause a bit of an issue. To me, it just seems a little buggy, so I make them passive to where they just go right through each other. Now, with this game, I'm not sure. I'm more talking about a real-time game, but so that's why we're going with passive for right now. And we will, trust me, we'll probably use all the different types, so just bear with me on this. Now, this is something I added in here. The way these, and for those of you that are new to this, the way this is basically going to work, it's not really important that you know all this, and don't get scared that, oh gosh, I just don't understand what all this stuff is. Trust me, it's not going to matter right now. You can come in at any time and add in, let's say, now they've already got a health that's built in, but let's say damage. Let's say you just wanted to give them a damage modifier. You can set that whatever you want, and you can come in later, and we set damage to 5, and you can use this in here by just going this dot damage, and it actually knows that that's 5. So that's how we kind of add some personal properties to this. And let me delete this out without making them, without going to index and trying to make them global where they share and everything else. And if we had an enemy and made his damage 7, they're each going to share their own damage, and also for every instance we can change that damage. So the speed is 100. That's where I'm keeping it, and I'll show you that. I'll show you about speed here in a minute, because we can actually change this, and we may want to change it while, like if we want to run by holding down the shift key, we're going to want to add speed. So then we come into our a built-in init function. This runs whenever the class is the entity is first built. This dot parent is quite important. This is if you ever come into a problem where this code is not running, especially with your update code, it's probably because you're missing this dot parent, and I'm not going to go into explanation of this dot parent just yet. It's not really that important. Just know it needs to be there. We need to add the animations. We need to tell the entity, need to tell impact what are the animations. Well, as I showed you before, I had the up animations, what's defined, the down, the define. It's pretty simple. We're just defining the animations by the actual grid on Photoshop. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my left should be 3, 4, 5, and you'll see it's 3, 4, 5 on left. So that's pretty easy. I wanted to go ahead and set the animation down as the current animation when this thing ignites, so that way whenever the game first loads, your player is just kind of facing down. We could set that up with a database to where your last position it goes right back to, but that's kind of meaningless. So basically we're just doing it this dot current animation. So this entity already has a property called current animation, and that's where it stores it, and we're saying that we want this entity's animation idle down, which I have here, so whenever it loads up it should be idle down. Next we have our update function. This function is constantly running, and if this function is not constantly running, you may be missing this dot parent, and trust me, I've seen it all over the forums. I've seen a ton of people forget to have that in there, so make sure we got that in there. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm actually I'm actually doing directional movement, and this is going to seem a little crazy. It's going to seem like a lot, but this to me was the best method for me. You may find a better method, but that's fine. Before I go into any more explaining of the rest of this code, I want to actually put the character in the game. So let's go back to our Google Chrome, and let's go ahead and create you alternate T to or Control T, I'm sorry, to create you a new tab, and let's go to localhost and slash and whatever you named your folder, and we want to go back to this Weltmeister and load it up, and I want them on two different ones so I can kind of see what's going on here. You're probably gonna have to load, so just go to load and then go to load level, level 1 if nothing comes up, if it comes up as a blank screen, and then just hit load, and that's going to load our level. Now basically we don't have a whole lot going on here. What we need to do now we have this up. Now we need to go back to our code, go to main. We need to tell the main program file, hey, I've got a new entity I want to start using. So we just come in right where we left off, put in a comma. We want to put in game dot entities dot, and we named it player. That was the name of our player, our JS. So we save that. That's going to make it require that file. So now we have it available to us. And so that's basically all we need right there is what we got. So let's go back to our Weltmeister, and we're basically probably going to have to refresh so it sees it again. If you have to reload, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and reload just to go back through it. And let's hit our entities, and if we hit our spacebar, we now have player available. We click it, and there's our player. So let's put him in a nice little spot, and I don't want to do much else yet, so let's save it, and we're done there. And we'll go back to our impact game and hit refresh, and there's our player now. He's sitting over here. You can actually move right now, but he's not centered to the screen or anything else. He's just kind of moving around, and that's about it. Now, if you've just downloaded the source, he's probably going to center because you're going to have all the original source of what I haven't changed yet. But I'm just kind of showing you right now. He's just kind of floating out there. There's no collision, so he can disappear. Nothing's following him. So let's get the screen to follow him. Let's go to our main .js, and I'm going to explain everything the player's doing. I just want to get him ready. So here's what we're going to, inside of our update function of our main, this also runs at all times. I'm going to uncomment this stuff. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call it player. Then we're going to call get entities by type, and we're going to call that entity player, and we're just going to get the main instance of it. Now the reason why we have to do this is because this is a completely different file. This is a completely different basic class, and it does not know this player. It's not available to it, so we have to make it available to it, and this is something we will go over a lot more later. We'll be using this get entities by type quite a bit, so just know the reason why we're doing it is because we need that instance of that class, or that basically that entity. So if we uncomment the rest of this, and now we're saying if player, because when we first, let's say we have a loading screen, and the loading screen says, okay, do you want a new game or whatever? Well, player doesn't exist yet. So if we come in here and do this, it's going to say, whoa, I don't know what player is. The player doesn't equal anything because it hasn't been created yet. The map hasn't loaded to create the player. So what you want to do is if player. So if this exists, then we want to say this screen.x equals, so basically the screen size, or the screen x location, the screen location of x and the location of y equals the player's location divided by 2. So we want it to be centered directly on the player. Now with me commenting that out, and I save it and I go back, you can now see it now follows me like it should, because it's always going to be updating, and it's always saying, well, wherever the player's at, that's where we want it. Now currently the player can walk off the map, and just to fix that real quick, let's throw in some collisions. So the next thing we want to do is let's create a new layer. We're going to call this collision, and we shouldn't need a tile set. We're going to make it 32. Actually, let's go ahead and make it 16. Let's make it half the size. Now, if you're going to make it 16, that's half the size. You're going to have to double your size here. So we're going to need to make this 60 by 40 and apply changes. Now when you hit your, did I spell something wrong? Collision. No, let's go ahead and just grab a tool set, or grab a tile set anyway. We apply changes. There we go. I guess you do have to select a tile set. And you notice it's not the actual tile set I've chosen. The reason why is because since we name this collision, it automatically knows this is our collision layer. And if you notice, I made it a little smaller. The reason why is because whenever you put in something, and we can test this in a minute, like a tree, you don't want the full 32. You want the player to be able to walk close to. So I like to make it a little bit smaller. And all we're going to do is we're just going to, we're going to create some a collision. Go around the map real quick. My mouse isn't very straight. And to show you how to erase stuff, you just hit space and you just click away, and that gives you a eraser. For those of us that have horrible mouse skills that can't seem to follow a straight line, reason why I'm not a good artist. So anyway, we create this collision realm, and we hit save, and that's going to create it. Now I'm going to go over that section in a minute. So basically we've created it. We can come back, we can hit refresh, and now we can kind of test it, and you can see here we can't go past it. Now something that's annoying me is this has changed, so I'm fixing to erase that. But if you notice, you got this black screen out here, and it doesn't quite look right. That's why a lot of times what I'll do is I'll create my level a little bigger, and then I'll put the collision like right here. That way when you reach here, it still looks like there's still more coming. You just can't go there. But anyway, let's go ahead and get rid of that. This has changed, and all we got to do is put these 2 slash marks, and that will comment out the code, and that'll get rid of it. And that's out of our way now. So we got this guy moving. Now let's go back to player, and let me explain everything else that's going on. The first thing, let's go ahead and explain why we're here, is our keys. Basically, we're doing an IG input.bind. This is binding the key of whatever we say to whatever action we want. So what I'm doing is key A is left, key D, because we're using the WASD keys, D is right, W is up, blah blah blah. So we've binded those keys to say this is the action I want it to do. I think I messed something up. Anyway, so if we go back to player, and now we look at our first, inside of our update function, that means it's constantly running. If the input state of left, now it knows what left is because we've defined it here, left equals that key A. So that's how we binded it. We binded the word left inside this input state to equal that A key. If the input state is left, so if we're saying we're pushing down the A button, and here now the rest of this I did because I toyed around with trying to get the directionals and trying to get everything to work right and not have him move in weird directions and stuff, and this to me was the best method. And isMove does not equal 1, does not equal 2, and does not equal 4. In other words, if he isn't pushing both buttons at the same time, then he can move the proper direction, because if you take these out, he moves really funny. So just know that this in stuff was to keep him from being able to move all weird and to keep it all right. And you can take those out to test it if you want, just to see what I'm talking about, because you may want to make your own type of movement. The next property that we have inside of entities is velocity, VEL. You have position, which is POS.x, and then you have velocity, which is VEL.x. Two different things. Position is your actual position. Velocity is the momentum, the movement. So instead of what I used to do to make movement in JavaScript when making games, without using this engine, was I would always up the pixels. So in other words, if he was moving left, I would minus X pixels to make it, and it never was fluid. It never really looked right. Well, the great thing about this is it's got a velocity that probably does deep down inside almost pretty much the same thing, but it's much more fluid. So we want to, because he's moving left, he's going this direction. He's going this direction. We're actually minusing our X, because if this was 0 and this was 100, he's about at 50 right now. We would want to go 40, 30, 20, 10, so we need to minus X's there. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just minusing his velocity, but what I'm doing is his speed, I'm minusing his speed. and his speed is 100. So if you were to change this to 200, now remember, I'm going to go ahead and say this now. You don't have to remember it right now. There is a max velocity that's preset. I believe it's set at 100. We're going to have to change that to 200 if we want to make him faster. But if I was to change that to 10, he moves really slow. So that's to show you how it's taken speed into effect. And I did that so that way when you change this, you only have to change the speed to one time, and it's going to change all directions. So the next thing is I'm saying is move equals 3. Now the way I always do my directionals is you have north, you just go in a clockwise direction, north, east, south, west. So which technically this isn't using it the way I normally use it, but I guess I did north, south, east, west. But anyway, is move equals 3 is what I'm saying is that he's moving left. This direction equals left. And then I'm doing the current animation. We want to change the animation, and I'm going to explain these two a little better here in a minute. The next thing we need to do is we need to tell, hey, we need to run the animation of him moving left. So what we do is we use this property of this entity, current animation, and we want it to say left, which we look up here. Left equals running that animation over and over and over again is what it's doing at this speed. So we come down and we look at our right. It's the same thing pretty much, other than we're doing a plus instead of a minus on our speed, because he's actually adding x to it. He's actually moving more, which, let me refresh for faster. He's actually increasing x. Same way with up and down, so I don't even have to explain it. He's separates y. He's minusing y. He's adding y. So anyway, all those are the same. That's basically what I'm doing. The direction, the reason why I do the direction is if you don't do the direction when he stops, you need something to say, well, what direction was he facing when he stopped? Otherwise, you're going to leave either this idle up that's just constantly going to be moving while you've actually stopped, or you're going to be in a funny position and you won't know which direction he was moving last. So if you do this and then you say, I want it to default to the down, well, every time you move and then stop, he's going to go down. Every move and stop and go down. It doesn't look right. So you want to be able to say, what was my last direction that I was actually traveling in? And that's what I've done with this dot direction. And the last thing we want to do, if there's nothing being pressed, then we want to take all the velocity down to 0 and the ends move is 0. It means he's not moving, and just say he's idling. Then it comes down and says, well, where do we idle at? Because this is actually, let me go ahead and delete this out of here so it's all spaced together. This is all part of that else. Well, what was his last direction that he was facing, so I can put him there. And if this direction equals 4, which is south, then he's down. If it's basically that's all it's doing. It's saying, well, where was his last direction? Let's put him there. And then of course we do our this.parent, and that's the basic quick synopsis of the player. If you didn't get anything, if there's still things you don't understand, don't worry, we're going to go through them. That's just a quick go through of what we did. And the same with the main, and let me save that real quick. And the same with the main. So I believe I pretty much explained everything I need to as far as the players and this is concerned. And now we can kind of move on to actually adding some things to the map on the next video.